Kylatch, you're 8 or 9 years old, letting yourself into an empty house with a key on a shoestring around your neck, and nobody's coming home for 2 more hours. You make your own snack, watch what you want, handle whatever happens. It was just Tuesday. That reflex handle it yourself, don't call anyone, don't wait, is the survival wiring of a kid who spent his afternoons alone. It looks like independence, but it was actually a lack of choices. Divorce rates more than doubled between 1960 and 1980, and mothers entered the workforce at record numbers, leaving as many as 4 in 10 Gen X kids to lock the front door behind themselves. One marketing study later called it the least parented, least nurtured generation in the country's history. You learned to survive on your own clock, and you just never really turned it off. Middle mute, you mentioned something from your childhood, a show, a toy, a whole cultural moment, and you get a blank stare from a coworker. You are too old for the millennial jokes, too young for the boomer ones. When you stand in a room, the culture simply isn't pointed your way. This isn't personal hostility, there just aren't enough of you to build a spotlight around. Gen X is a comparatively small cohort, squeezed between 2 massive demographic waves, earning the title of the forgotten middle child. You didn't get erased. You just never got announced. Desk grief, you think about the guy your dad worked next to for 30 years, the one with the gold watch and the guaranteed pension, and you realize that bargain was dead before you hit the workforce. You did the loyal thing anyway, showed up, stayed late, didn't job hop, and the company restructured regardless. That flicker of grief is for a phantom deal you never actually got to sign. Gen X was the first generation to depend almost entirely on 401(k)s instead of traditional corporate security, and the math is brutal. The average Gen X balance sits around $20,000 against an estimated dollars untied million needed to retire comfortably. The corporate promise wasn't broken for you. It was dismantled before you arrived. Farline, a friend from years back, texts to grab a beer, and something in you stalls. You mean to answer. You don't, not for 3 days, and by then it feels too awkward to explain the silence, so you let it drop. That slow, self-authored distance isn't about a packed calendar. You have the hours, you're just out of practice spending them on yourself. Men have lost close friendships faster than almost any other demographic. In 1990, over half of American men had 6 or more close friends. Today it's little more than a quarter, and the share of men with no close friends at all has gone up 5-fold. There was no blow-up or argument. You just let the line go slack until the current carried it away. Too fraught, you're on the phone with your mother's doctor in one ear and texting your 17-year-old about a curfew in the other on the same afternoon. Neither conversation gets your full attention because both sides assume they are your sole priority. More than half of adults in their 40s are sandwiched this way, a living parent on one side, a child still at home or needing financial help on the other. Sandwich caregivers report losing dozens of hours and thousands of dollars a month trying to balance the scale. You aren't failing. You are just the single bridge holding 2 eras together. Short count, you open the retirement account you've been contributing to for 25 years, and for the first time you actually run the numbers instead of just glancing at the total. It doesn't reach. This goes deeper than basic monthly money stress. It's the cold realization that the whole plan was built on a baseline that was never going to be enough. Gen Xers on average expect to retire roughly $400,000 short of what they believe they'll need, the widest gap of any living generation, and only 16% feel prepared. You didn't drop the ball. You just ran out of time for compound interest to fix it. Fine lock, someone who actually cares asks how you're doing, and fine flies out of your mouth before your brain can stop it. It's an automatic security door that shuts on its own before you even get a look at what's behind it. This isn't a conscious choice to withhold secrets. The words just don't queue up in time. Research on male friendships points to this structural roadblock constantly. Men report far less emotional disclosure with the people closest to them than women do. It's not a lack of feeling, but a total absence of vocabulary. The door isn't locked to hide a secret. It's locked because you were never given the keys to the room. Signal gap, your kid explains a piece of technology to you slowly, using the exact tone you used to teach them how to ride a bike. You both pretend the roles haven't flipped. You belong to the unique micro-generation raised on early cable and arcade cabinets, but old enough to remember a world before the internet. You spend half your life genuinely analog, and the other half genuinely online, leaving you straddling both worlds, native to neither. It's a constant, exhausting translation process between 2 entirely distinct historical eras that you happen to remember vividly. Ledger hush late at night. After the house goes quiet, you run a private tally. The things you held together, the crises you quietly diffused, the version of your life you traded away to anchor someone else's. No one is going to ask to see that balance sheet, and honestly, you wouldn't know how to explain the columns if they did. This isn't bitter regret. You'd likely make the exact same choices again. You just wish, just once, someone had noticed the weight of the bricks while you were carrying them. Most of what you built was built in total silence, which is the exact reason no one else knows the cost.